Twilight Gets a Puppy. By TDR. Chapter 108. Sonic Rainboom. Part 6. Cloudsdale Stadium, stands. Say, Ross has been gone quite a while, ain't he? Applejack mused. At least for 6 or 7 performances. Rarity agreed. He's probably just blowing his paycheck on anything he can shove down his throat. Twilight sighed. He better hurry back with my milk duds. Spike scoffed. The small group was in a relatively unoccupied section of the stadium. While it had been crowded at first, thankfully for Twilight's issues with crowds, it had thinned out considerably about 6 or 7 performances ago. This left the mares, and Spike, mostly alone and seated across the stadium from where Princess Celestia and the Wonderbolts were seated. I thought Princess Luna and Princess Cadance were supposed to be here too. Pinkie Pie asked. They were supposed to be, and I see some of their guards around. Twilight offered, pointing out the members of the Heart Guard and Night Guard moving around the stadium. Maybe they went to the little filly's room. Fluttershy suggested. The whole event? Applejack asked. Could be other business. Cloudsdale's a big city. They might not have intended to come to the show at all if they needed to deal with some royal duty or another. Rarity offered. Hey look, Rainbow Dash came out. Pinkie Pie pointed down to the bottom of the stadium. Finally, wait, is that Ross? Spike blinked. Seriously? He had to get into a show. Stupid drama dog. He better not mess this up for Rainbow Dash. Twilight snapped. Think you're being a little hard on him, he don't seem to be interested in moving from that cloud he's sitting on. Applejack offered. Might've just been giving Dash a little pep talk, she did seem nervous. Asterisk. So you're just gonna sit there? Dash questioned. Yep, well try to anyway. With how these stupid wings keep moving, I'm having a hard time planting my butt anywhere. Anyway, go wow them, or break a leg, or whatever the term for flying is that means good luck, but it's not said as such cause it's bad luck. Ross shrugged. Wait, it's bad luck to say good luck. Dash blinked. In theater it is. Now go. This is a timed event, remember. Ross smirked, flashing his fangs. Dash laughed a little, launching herself into the air to start on the slalom as her friends watched. She was still nervous, but she had to do her best here, get the first part of the set done, then worry about the Rainboom. Ross smirked a little watching her go. He had been interested in seeing what Dash could do, and now he had the best seat in the house for it. There he is, shouted a voice. Ross flattened his ears, looking back as a swarm of Pegasi mares pushed through the small door out of the locker room and onto the tiny cloud ledge. Ross whirled about, backing up, his eyes wide as the chattering swarm approached, asking a number of rather personal questions and requesting dates, kisses, or something along the lines of all the innuendo Rainbow Dash spouted earlier. As he kept backing up, his rear hooves found the edge of the cloud and slipped off of it. Again, well shit. Ross deadpanned as he fell off the cloud, the updraft from below catching his flailing form, and more importantly his larger than normal wings. The strong upward wind shot the screaming moondog/pony skyward in a manic spiral. Asterisk. Twilight frowned, watching her brother launch up into the air flailing. Well, that's not very dignified. Rarity scoffed. Twilight's horn glowed and the cloud the swarm of Pegasi were standing on rolled up like a scroll, squishing all of them in a sticky sap-like mess and pulling the mare swarm back into the locker room, the door shutting behind them with a slam. Was that Elder Bloom's sticky sap trap? Spike questioned. Yup, along with some basic telekinesis. Twilight agreed. They were already feathered and you just teared them. Pinkie giggled. Is Ross gonna be alright? Applejack asked. He should be fine, the wings are designed for a bit of strain, much more than the butterfly wings I first considered. They still have a bit of issue if they come in contact with water, but we should be fine. It's not raining and there's no lakes up here. Twilight nodded. Once he stops panicking he can just glide back over here. Yeah, I mean worst case he hits the safety net they set up. Spike shrugged. Not to point this out. But clouds are made of condensed water vapor, would that matter? Fluttershy offered. Not really, he'd need to go through a particularly thick cloud or a series of them. Twilight shrugged. You mean like that cloud safety net they set up? Applejack muttered, watching as Ross hit the upper parts of the stadium, plowing through a number of buffer clouds that slowed him down. As the navy-furred pony burst up through the last safety cloud, the crowd all gasped as the large moth wings on his back started to melt. The liquid slinging off his back like ink in a brilliant green and blue shower that turned the rest of the cloud safety net below him differing colors. As he reached the apex of his trip upward, Ross adopted a look of pure annoyance at the state of things, before he fell back through the holes he made going up, gravity pulling him down very quickly. Of course, as soon as he noticed he was falling and looked down, he started to panic. Of all the... I got him! Twilight muttered, her horn glowing brightly, only for her to wince and all the others to start shouting as they began sinking into the cloud they were on. What? Twilight gasped, cancelling her grab for her brother as she redoubled the efforts to keep the cloud walking spell going. I shouldn't be tired enough to start losing my spells. And how many spells have you cast today to get the mares away from Ross? Spike chided. Elder Bloom's sticky sap is not a low-power spell. Twilight winced. He should be fine. Them 3 Wonderbolt's use went after him. Applejack pointed out. All right, going for his back legs. Fleetfoot shouted, darting ahead of the others to grab at Ross's back legs. Try not to move too much, guy, we're here to save you. Why was there an earth pony even in Cloudsdale? Soren questioned, dipping low and coming up to press his hooves against the falling earth pony's shoulders underneath him, trying to slow his fall so a sudden catch of his limbs wouldn't pull something out of its socket. Doesn't matter, we have a job to do. Spitfire commented, going to grab at the falling pony's forelimbs. Fleetfoot caught a hold of Ross's back limbs, fanning her wings as she tried to slow the fall. She winced as her wings strained under the navy-furred pony's unexpected weight and his rear legs slip out of her grip, sending Ross tumbling end over end. This was highly unfortunate for Soren, who had gotten under him, as when Ross spun backwards, the back of the Moondog's skull impacted with Soren's head, knocking the blue Wonderbolt out with a sound not unlike 2 coconuts colliding. Despite the impact, Ross continued to spin and free fall, his back limbs smacking into Spitfire's head as he spun, knocking the Wonderbolt's goggles off and dazing her enough for her to veer off to the side, impacting Fleetfoot and crushing her wings. Gaia! Fleetfoot flailed. Why are you so bucking heavy? I'm falling to my death and you want to complain about my weight? Great rescue, by the way. Ross managed to gasp out as he covered his mouth with his forehooves, starting to get sick from all the spinning he was doing. I should not have eaten those corn dogs. You are surprisingly calm about this. Fleetfoot muttered, as she got free of the dazed Spitfire, wincing, tried to use the wing that had been crashed into. I'm trying to think of any last words I can yell before I die. Ross contemplated, still somersaulting down towards the ground. I think buck you, Twilight, for forcing me to come to Cloudsdale is rather appropriate, if a little long. What about you? What the heck is that? Fleetfoot asked, looking upward. I think it's called the ground, and I'm pretty sure it does not want to be our friend. Ross snarked. Not that, you idiot, that. Fleetfoot pointed upward at a rainbow streak of light coming towards them. Rainbow Dash had almost reached the point of her climb where she would turn and attempt the Rainboom again. She spared a small glance back, hearing a panicked cry coming from the stands. Looking down where the rest of the stadium was staring, she spotted Ross without wings, falling, with what looked to be 3 Wonderbolts drifting around him, falling as well, not flying. Crap! Hang on, Ross, I'm coming! Dash shouted, whipping around and shooting downward. She tore through the opening in the center of the stadium, a colorful blur that blew past faster than most of the crowd's eyes could follow. It wasn't enough, she was catching up slowly, and the ground was closer to the falling ponies than she was. Her wings beat faster, forcing gravity to pull harder on her as she shot downward, her hooves stretched before her to grab every bit of speed she could muster. She started to feel some sort of resistance, something pushing back against her hooves. Rainbow Dash gritted her teeth seeing the falling ponies getting closer, but she was still too slow. Her wings beat furiously as the air around her hooves started to bend and stretch, the air starting to turn to steam as it hit her hooves, the mist flickering around her in a cone as she pushed even harder against it, her teeth gritted as she pressed on. She wasn't going to give up. Suddenly there was no more pressure and she surged forward as if something was propelling her downward now. A resounding boom filled the air around her as the air broke and she shot towards the group like a rocket. This was still cutting it close as she caught up with the falling group, snatching them up as best she could. She grabbed Ross and draped Fleetfoot over her shoulders, the mare grabbing Spitfire and Ross grabbing Soren, before Dash changed the angle of her decent 90 degrees, shooting across the ground close enough that Soren's hooves brushed the grass. She nearly plowed into a surprised Princess Celestia who was standing on the ground, her horn glowing and eyes wide with shock as Rainbow Dash streaked past her. Dash pulled up, wincing a little at the weight she was carrying, but the momentum of her speed sent her flying up with only a little difficulty back to the stadium with the rescued ponies. Only when she was almost there did Rainbow Dash spare a glance back to the trail of rainbow-colored light she was leaving in her wake. "Whoa!" Dash exclaimed before gasping as she took note of Ross's weight. "Dang, you need to go on a diet." Dash smirked. "Buck you!" Ross growled. "Thanks for the save, but buck you. That an offer?" Dash smirked. "No. Awv." Author's note. And thus concludes Sonic Rainboom main story. There will however be 2 epilogues, the first is done and will be up tomorrow morning and the second shouldn't be that long after. After that there is only one more episode before season 1 of Twilight Gets a Puppy is over. Not counting the couple of mid-hiatus episodes I have in mind. Beast night ever. End author's note. End chapter 108. Sonic Rainboom. Part 6.